Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of Pilot Light, presented by Steven Spielberg, a podcast where we watch the first episode of something and then we talk about it. My name's David, and they say it might be some trigger-happy rocket jog with a 20 meg party crasher out to make the fat lady sing at the ball game.
You got there. It was a bit of a struggle, but you got there in the end. Well done, Dave.
I watched this episode 45 seconds ago.
My name's Sam, and I feel the need. I feel the need for expeditious velocity. Damn it!
And I'm Joe, and Sam broke both his legs, and Dave thinks he's a koala.
You know what, guys?
Zero context. Zero context.
It's kind of a quote from the show, to be fair.
What are we doing?
It is. I was sure one of you was going to say Narf, because my intro was just going to be me saying Narf. But I was certain that Joe would take that.
Yeah. I did have What is Narf?
What is Narf? So this week we watched for the premium price of 10 pence on Amazon Prime. That's 30 pence for maths fans out there. The pilot episode for Pinky and the Brain, which aired on September the 9th, 1995. A 9/11, pre-9/11.
Oh, there we go. Why are we watching this? Because I can't quite remember.
I mean, it's basically because you're an idiot. Is the official reason. So
go on.
We were just kind of having a look, and we noticed that some Amazon TV shows were offering like the first episode for 10 pence. And we've been talking
almost
about
like entirely aimed at us for the podcast as well. It's just the first episode, right?
Just the pilot.
It's the kind of like the attempt to, like, I think, you make it the first episode 10 pence, and then people will go, "Ooh, that was a good first episode. I'll buy the next 18 seasons." But I mean, I don't really know the logic behind having a 1995 cartoon of Pinky and the Brain on there. But anyway, we were looking at these TV episodes, and Sam clicked by and he purchased it.
I remember now. It was because I was on the website.
His son couldn't eat that day.
That's me blowing out the budget. I mean, this probably is blowing out our budget, considering we have absolutely no budget for this podcast.
Didn't you just spend 50 quid on an Amazon Prime channel by accident for like 4 months as well?
Yeah. Oh, that's the other one, Dave. Thanks for that. Stars Play, which popped up on my Monzo account. I was like, what the hell? And then I realized, this is the thing that we had a trial for, to watch some shit that Dave wanted to watch, and that was in October. So now we can say £50 and 10 pence.
£6. It's the same.
Yeah.
And recording equipment ain't cheap.
Well, that's true.
Anyway.
Basically, send us money. That's what we're saying. Yes.
Patreon.com/
Sam,
watching,
give us a plot summary.
We're watching Pinky and the Brain, which it's one of those shows from Saturday morning cartoons. In this episode, Brain steals a submarine in order to get ingredients for his plan to take over the world. He ends up raising the Titanic. However, his submarine is destroyed by the CIA. Pinky and the Brain is possibly a cartoon that you've never heard of. I think it's got some cultural cachet. I think it does sit in a certain place, but it's pretty niche. Like I think it's maybe been forgotten in the 90s Saturday morning cartoon, rotisserie.
But I mean, it's a cartoon from within a cartoon, because it started off inside the Animaniacs. And then, they were like short clips inside the Animaniacs, and then kind of got its own little gig, more or less. So,
who watched this when they were kids?
I watched this. Yeah, it was always on repeat. It was always the same episodes that played over and over again. But
was it ITV or was it BBC? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I was one of these like rich kids that had Cartoon Network, so I probably worked on that.
Jesus Christ! Let's get this bourgeoisie bastard off the podcast immediately.
Absolutely, fuck him. I watched it when I was a kid. I'm not sure I've ever seen this episode before. That's kind of like that's how we lived in the 90s. Like, You just
you missed days of TV. Like if you missed an episode, you're
Joe,
animals.
Yeah, unless you can literally
Especially-
guarantee you were in front of the television every day at the same time for like a spell, you would miss episodes.
And
you
I
couldn't
tried.
record it. Nothing was streaming. It was just that's it. You'd missed it. You had to wait another 3 years till that episode came round. It was great.
Especially when you're
So-
a kid and you don't have any like TV control. But like maybe let's talk about because I see Sam itchy. Maybe let's talk about Saturday morning cartoons as like a cultural thing. Because I'm not sure. Like Sam, you've got a son, so you're kind of like our man on the inside as it goes up for this.
I watch a lot of cartoons, mostly voluntarily. Like I think Saturday morning cartoons, or at any point, but you know those type of kids cartoons from the 90s. There seems to be like a unique feel here about the kind of 90s cartoons. This is definitely up there and one of those ones that you definitely categorize. And also I think things like Spider-Man is the other one, Spider-Man animated series from the mid-90s, which was just like...
I can't remember when it came out. We used to watch a lot of Dexter's Lab.
Dexter's Laboratory.
I think
that might have been a
little
bit later, though.
It was.
This is the sort of thing that we probably watched in syndication. Whereas I think maybe something like Dexter's Lab is like, or Johnny Bravo, we maybe watched as they came out.
Dexter's Laboratory was 26th of February 1995.
Oh, same year. Wow. Earlier than this. Well, I obviously fucking don't know anything. All of my believability's just gone down the pan.
Yeah. But also, I mean, things like DuckTales. Do you remember watching DuckTales? Animaniacs?
I remember playing the DuckTales game. I still think about it a lot. Like,
yes.
more than a grown adult man should think about a Sega game.
And just to like round off the 1995 cartoons, Johnny Bravo was 26th of March 1995. So there we go.
Wow, I thought that was much later.
We are stuck, by the way. We have achieved equilibrium in the bang in 1995. In the middle of 1995 is apparently where we live. Everything we love is from this period.
A couple of other examples. Rugrats. Remember watching Rugrats? That was a great show. I really enjoyed that. And The Jetsons. And you might be thinking, isn't that a cartoon from the 60s? But it was still on TV in the 90s. That's how it worked. And
things like the Flintstones as well. Even Flintstones, you know.
So all of these type of things, you know, where you sat eating your Cheerios, watching Cheerios, please play us. Watching the array of different cartoons that were on.
Well, me, by the way, just as a sidebar, we're into kids' cereals now. When I was a kid, there was nothing better than...
What are we doing?
Bear with me. Nothing better than sitting and watching Saturday morning cartoons before your parents got up with a bowl of Frosties with extra sugar in it. And the very thought of it makes my teeth hurt.
Yeah.
Kids,
I just cringed.
You're disgusting.
I just cringed.
I can't even eat cereal. Just normal cereal. Literally bran flakes. Bran flakes hurt my teeth.
I eat fruit and bran. That's about as far as I can go on cereal these days.
Special K, man. That's where it's at.
Welcome to
people who aren't even that old talking like that.
We had like a 10-minute texting chat about Hoovers the other day, and that's not a joke. So you know, it's all downhill.
We love it. So let's talk about Pinky and the Brain then. We've all kind of watched it. It's a show that's as you say, it comes from Animaniacs. So I kind of always like TV that comes out of other TV. Simpsons being probably the most famous example of that, and it's a great test bed, isn't it, for shows to just come out of the gate absolutely ready to go, fully baked, to confuse this metaphor, and then we can just from the beginning we get to see a pretty, I think, well-formed pilot here, or not pilot, first episode, you know, because it was all agreed anyway. So it's from the mind of Tom Ruegger and not Steven Spielberg, as they would have you suggest from the title of the show, which is Steven Spielberg Presents Pinky and the Brain. I never understood that as a kid. Obviously now it's because...
I think, was he a producer?
He was executive producer. So I get it, because you want to have Steven Spielberg's name. But I always, as a kid, I was like, who's Steven Spielberg? Why don't they talk about Steven Spielberg? Where's Steven Spielberg? What's he doing? Like, why is he involved in this show at all? So it was kind of over my head a little bit. Yeah, hello?
Sorry, my audio was. I'm gonna level with you. Well, I know we're live on YouTube right now. My audio was recording on my laptop microphone, and I could see the feedback, and it was distracting me. So I've changed it and sorted it. But then, obviously, really dropped the ball on the podcast. On the actual episode, though, by the magic of editing, this won't exist.
I'm going to keep it in just to fuck with you, Dave.
Well, you'll have to keep in my shitty audio from the
Joe,
first
you can also
10
speak
minutes.
as well. So now you guys can talk.
Let's talk about this episode of television. Pinky and the Brain is really fun. The first thing I want to talk about is the opening theme tune, because it's a very specific type of opening theme tune it tells you, I can't think of another example in my head, it tells you everything you need to know about the characters, about the setting, about what you're about to watch. I love it. It's Pinky and the Brain. They are genetically modified lab rats. Every night they try and take over the world.
Mm-hmm.
The brain,
one's insane.
brain. Exactly. And it kind of like, and that, by the way, I know this is the podcast about pilots. Like, that just negates any fucking baggage unloading, because you've done it in a jaunty, like, intro theme tune.
Mm-hmm.
Whose Android is talking to them?
Somewhere. So yeah, so that first kind of really, the opening credits really just like set everything up, as you say, Dave. And it's a great song as well. It's a song that's permanently stuck in my head.
Oh, it's a proper earworm. And the brain. Just chatting brain over and over again, because the 90s were like amazing, but also like it's good that we don't do that to kids quite as dramatically anymore.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So it is a good kind of strong opening theme tune, and opening themes, another staple of 90s TV. Like the Spider-Man theme is
Scooby-Doo is another one that comes straight to mind.
Hold on, Joe. We're talking about the Spider-Man theme. Hold on.
The Spider-Man theme is the cokiest thing I've ever listened to in my entire life.
Can we kind of hold off on the Spider-Man, because not to like ruin anything, but we will be doing Spider-Man in like 2 weeks.
No, this is now the Spider-Man episode. Get ready. Let's go. So yeah, it is a strong opening theme, and like that again is a staple of Saturday morning cartoons, isn't it? That you'd know what it was just from the first few bars of whatever song they've got.
Yeah, I mean, even more so than I'd say. Well, from watching this, and obviously I kind of watched it way back in the day, and it's interesting to note that you may be aware of this show because it had, like, I think a lot of people know Pinky and the Brain from the follow-up that's Pinky, Elvira and the Brain, which I think like maybe went on for a little bit longer, or was, you know, a little bit larger a few years later. But the great thing about Pinky the Brain is that it's a show for kids, and like we'll get into, there are loads of boomer jokes in here, but it's, you know, it's not The Simpsons, which is like, you know, it's a family sitcom that's animated, especially when it starts. It does change, whereas this is like a silly, funny cartoon. It's very Looney Tunesy in parts, and it moves. 4 minutes into this episode, we are on our way to race the Titanic. For some reason,
it jumps straight into it, like automatically. Yeah. Like it doesn't hang around. It's like within 30 seconds, Brain's like extracting some sort of like a chemical off the skin of frogs or something like that that's going to hypnotize people. Planning a pancake jamboree to like feed them pancakes with this mix in. It's
a pretty baseless plan, to be honest. They brainwash 10,000 people. Or they'll control 10,000 people. I'm like, if the Soviets couldn't do it with, you know, 1 billion, like what are your chances, Brain? Come on.
Using some sort of like I don't know, chemical from the skin of a frog and from the risen Titanic. I don't know, question mark.
Crabs. It's full of crabs, apparently.
Crabs. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Don't think about it. Don't think about it.
Don't think about it. It's fine. It's not a problem.
But another thing, like, so we talked about the fact that we did Jetsons as a previous episode. And when we were watching that, we were kind of saying that some of the jokes that were in that were kind of aimed more at adults than children. And we were saying that this is probably because back when, you know, there was one TV and you were like fighting over control, anything that was on needed to kind of keep whoever was watching it entertained, being that an adult. So if an adult was watching it with kids, you know, you needed to try and keep them entertained as well. And this does kind of do that. A lot of the jokes in it, it's not kind of in the same way as the Jetsons, because some of those were kind of more for, I would have said more for adults than kids. Kids just wouldn't have understood them. But in this, some of the jokes are a little bit more kind of aimed at kind of the older audience to find them funny as well. I mean, I was laughing at it. I found it funny.
Well, that's a good like the TV that I watch with my son is mostly shite, just shite, completely unengaging because it's not for me. But there's a couple of shows. One of them is Ninjago, which is quite
Are those cool Lego things.
Yeah. It's got quite a good arc throughout the season. Really good story. In fact, I would suggest that we do it one day actually. And so shows like that where you're actually like, oh, there's a bit more meat on the bones. And the other one is Phineas and Ferb, which is genuinely hilarious. It's genuinely hilarious because it's it has those adult jokes in there, and it's actually speaking to you at a level that you're like, okay, I can get through the next hour of this, so I can make it. Whereas I can Postman Pat some shit. I just want to blow my brains out.
Well, I was at my sister's a few weeks ago, and her daughter's 2 or 7 or however old kids are, and she was watching. It was a bear who was a scout leader and like a bunch of like little animals. And I was talking to my brother-in-law, and he was saying like this is the best thing that she watches because like you can follow what's going on and there are plots and stories. And I was like, wow, that's a really, really low bar. I remember when my youngest sister was very small. My dad was living with us for a while, and he was unemployed, and he used to have to sit and watch basically kids' cartoons all day because my sister was 3 or 4, and the one that he hated the most was, do you remember the car that drove around towns?
Brum? No,
Brum.
Do you remember Brum? It wasn't Brum. There was like a Brum rip off that was 2 fluff balls in a vacuum cleaner that basically did the same thing. They drove around London or whatever, and he used to watch that and really just want to like blow his brains out.
Probably still better than Hoops.
Yeah,
probably.
If you're 12 and the word fuck is really funny, I mean, Hoops is for you.
Yeah.
Go wild.
So the cast in this, then we've got 2 very, very accomplished and now both very famous voice actors. We've got Rob Paulsen, who plays Pinky. Now he's like basically starring in all the TV shows that we've been talking about. Ninja Turtles.
Man works.
He was in the Mask animated series. Do you remember that?
I do.
So
like
good.
a fever dream, like a crack-induced fever dream.
It was more insane than that movie. And also The Land Before Time. Which do you remember those films? Do you remember those movies?
So good.
We had the second one on VHS.
Yes.
So like I don't know if I've ever seen the first one, but I've seen the
Don't
second
watch
one
it.
1,000 times.
The bit with the mom dies and the
Don't,
whole
Sam,
thing.
don't do this to me. I'll start having PTSD for these
Bambi.
dinosaurs.
It's like Bambi all over again.
You
It's
give a
worse
shit
than
about
Bambi
Bambi, Joe.
because they're dinosaurs, and I like dinosaurs. I don't want to say anyway. So Rob Paulsen is, and I think he gets to do some great funny like overacting in this. I imagine this was really fun for him to do.
Yeah, and a big get in this, obviously starring opposite Paulson is Orson Welles. Somehow they got him, and he's
exhumed.
He did the Transformers movie, and he did this.
The Maurice LaMarche who plays the Brain. Wikipedia says that the Brain looks and sounds like Orson Welles. I think it's a little bit mean to say looks like him, but okay. Maybe that's a bit mean, Wikipedia, but it's definitely a good aping of Orson Welles. Before we started, I was thinking about my funny bits, and I was trying to see if I could muster an Orson Welles impression.
Dude, every single week I have this exact internalized dilemma.
I absolutely
Can I
can't.
do that accent even remotely well? No, I can't.
No. Obviously, Orson Welles, very very famous actor, director, everything from back in the day. And Maurice LaMarche is probably most famous for being, well, for me anyway, for the Kif in Futurama. And
He also plays Hedonism Bot. in Futurama. My favorite Futurama character.
Amazing character.
And
Best name.
he does the Orson Welles voiceovers that you get frequently when like the world's ending. So he's all over Futurama doing voices here and there.
But let's bring it back to Saturday morning cartoons, which is what we had to talk about. He was in Hey Arnold. Do you remember that? That was good. Although it was on.
Yes, I do remember that.
It was on ITV, I think, so I never really got into it as a thing because we used to watch.
I never watched much of it. I know of it.
I remember watching a lot of it, but I couldn't tell you a single thing about it.
No,
I think
He's
it's
the
one
kid
of those
that had like
tragic
a
TV
funny
shows.
shaped head, wasn't it? He had the
Yeah,
funny shaped
I
head
think
with the
it's-
yellow hair. And...
I think it's one of those TV shows about kids that are so popular where the kids' parents are dead and that's somehow okay. But I couldn't tell you anything about it.
The other one that Maurice LaMarche is famous, and I don't know if you remember this, the real Ghostbusters cartoon where he played
Get out of here, fake Ghostbusters!
Egon Spengler in that. Now, it's not a Ghostbusters podcast, but I love the story behind that. There was some copyright dispute or something where we had this Ghostbusters cartoon, and so they
I
had to
think
come out
the
with their own one.
Ghostbusters cartoon is like there's a monkey on their team. It's like it's not a rip off of Ghostbusters that somehow got on the name first. It's an entirely different premise.
It is, but it does have like a ghost.
Yeah.
And the whole thing 2 years later than the Ghostbusters. So they were cashing that check to make sure that they could they could get some money. But
Clever.
Maurice LaMarche then, so he is obviously, again, he's a very, very successful, famous voice actor, and had been doing it for a while, but certainly in the mid-90s is when he, I think, really kind of cemented that voice acting role. What's nice in terms of these two actors is that they are both voice actors, and we've
talked
talked
about this a lot, haven't we?
We have how annoying it is to watch a TV show or more movies really, where everyone
I blame Jerry Seinfeld.
Probably everyone is some
legitimately
famous...
I think that's when celebrities started doing stunt casting in like voice roles, and it's B movie, and Jerry Seinfeld once again is responsible for the downfall of society. And because you are right, in the 90s and all the cartoons that we love and all the stuff that like continues to be beloved and adored, like Futurama, The Simpsons, stuff like this, Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man Attorney at Law, all of these TV shows, like the reason they're so good, even if the animation is shocking, and it so often is because it's voice actors, it's working professionals in that field. Actors are great, but so much of actually acting is body language and it's emoting, and obviously voice acting, like the people who are really good at it, it's all of that stripped away, and they can do voices, not impressions, but voices. And like Pinky in the Brain is a really good example, because LaMarche especially is just doing, he's not speaking like Maurice LaMarche. You wouldn't know this was the guy who voiced Kif, because he's doing the voice for this character. Yeah,
I would disagree a little bit in that you wouldn't know who he is, because and I think that's the genius of someone like Billy West or Maurice LaMarche, in fact, is that like you can tell who they are. You can tell that that's the guy, but there's a difference. There's a subtle difference. Even some of the episodes of Futurama when Billy West is playing Fry as usual, and then when Fry gets smarter, in that one episode he has some, I can't remember. Like, there's a difference to the way he's speaking and the use of his voice, and there's all these things like it's amazing and subtle. And I think it's just so much better to have actual voice actors, especially for cartoons where you really need to convey so much in the voice.
Also, actors have got enough work. Fuck you guys. Get back to your jobs.
Fuck you, Jerry Seinfeld. What are you doing?
Yeah. Fuck you, Sarah Chalk. Get out of my cartoons and get back on screen. I jest. I love Sarah Chalk. Obviously, continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah. It's funny now though, isn't it? Because like most, like The Simpsons, for example, these millionaires just have like a recording studio in their house, and they just.
Oh, look. Can't you see?
Yeah, just like us. That's right. And that's so like, they don't even need to get out of bed really to be able to kind of deliver their lines. So I think it's funny how, again, as much as we're complaining about like normal actors, whatever, physical actors, taking over voice actor roles. Also, we basically just got like this mega star cast of voice actors, people like John DiMaggio, Billy West, etc., who are just in everything. And you're like, surely there's other things you could be doing. You don't need the money now. Really, do you, Billy West? Are you sure?
Yeah, let somebody else get some of this stuff. Yeah.
Like
They're not
Invincible. Invincible, previous episode. Go check that
Yeah,
out.
what you do in that instance, though, Sam, is you hire all of the cast of The Walking Dead,
And then kill them all again.
Exactly, you just have them do all the voices.
then
Let's get
kill
back
them
to
all
talking
over
about
again.
Pinky and the Brain, though, because there's a lot to like in this episode, and maybe we should try and give it our usual, treatment in terms of the plot, in terms of what we're seeing. The thing I like the most about this episode is the intentionality of the animation. I think that they do a really good job down to, Brain has a grappling hook that's a safety pin. I love the costume changes. At one point, he's dressed in a chef's blouse, question mark, and then the ship's captain like woolly jumper and hat. I just love it. I think it's such fun animation around Pinky and Brain, and the way that they interact with like human-sized environments, I think is really excellently done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think it's a really fun episode of TV, to be honest. I mean, watching it, I just thought it was really quite a fun, obviously it's not got that much depth to it being a children's cartoon, but generally speaking, it's just fun, isn't it? It's just, it makes jokes. They're pretty funny. I think it's
Reminds
just
you of simpler
cartoon.
times. It's not particularly like ripping off anything. It's not just like a series of in-jokes about pop culture at the time, which is really refreshing, actually. It's not Rick and Morty, which is like, oh, this week they're doing a Mad Max thing. Great. It's not that. This is just like a fun, self-contained, silly adventure. And
each episode is a different one. Like the storyline's the same. They're trying to take over the world. Our Brain is. Pinky's just along for the ride. But like each episode is just like completely different. They try different stupid methods to do it, and it just has fun with itself.
Same thing we do every night, Joe. Try to take over the world.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Podcast at a time.
Yeah. I like how immediately zany we get with this, because obviously Pinky and the Brain are genetically modified mice who have been given sentience or whatever else, and
Sam Jordan, anti-mice rights.
They were spliced using the Acme bagel warmer and gene splicer. Apparently, that's what was. So there we go.
So and just from that starting point, we get to surfacing the Titanic, which I think is really funny and very, very in vogue as well for 1995.
Exactly. Yeah.
We also get to see some the CIA people who are kind of a bit weird.
The CIA are not nearly like what's the word? They're not nearly as ready to kill these people as the CIA actually would be.
Yes, absolutely.
They
would make sure the job was done.
It's quite a warm and friendly version of the CIA, and it's probably actually the only bit where there's a couple of jokes that really fall flat. The one which I fucking hate. There's two instances of him going, "Oh, if the old man will hear about this," and he goes, "Oh, you mean the president?" He means, "No, I mean some old man." And you're like, "Oh God, fucking slip my own wrists." And then the next line,
very strong reaction,
is, "Oh, well, the boys, they say, we need to go and get him." And he's like, "Oh, you mean the Pentagon?" He's like, "No, I mean my boys, John and Sam or whatever." And it's like, fucking, can we write a better fucking joke than this same joke?
But for
twice?
kids though, that is funny. The kids will find that funny.
What's interesting? What's interesting though, the plot of this is that we start off and they're talking. They want to brainwash people or something, and then so I think Pinky suggests that why don't they have a pancake feast?
Pancake jamboree. Pancake jamboree is what it is.
Jamboree, yeah. So
get me to this pancake jamboree, my God.
So they need to put the serum whatever into pancakes, and so carry the noodles. They have to.
Well, apparently the serum tastes really awful. Is the problem? So they're putting this into the pancake mix.
So they get crab.
And
the logical jump is that they get this stuff from the toad, and Brain makes the whatever, the first batch, and basically it's missing an ingredient. And that's when he says, right, we need something from this white crab. And he's the Titanic, it's full of them. So then we're off to get the Titanic because it's full of these crabs. Like, we've already established we're going to have this pancake jamboree. We need to, and then most of the rest of the episode is about getting to the Titanic.
Yeah.
I would say
we're at the Titanic incredibly quickly. Like the leaps from pancake jamboree, special ingredient, the sea, Titanic, raising the Titanic is like happened so quickly. And
although not in universe, because Brain says like, oh, a journey that should take us 2 hours is going to take us 7 months.
Yeah, because they can only turn right. Because the submarine.
It's got a steering lock on it, like you put in a car.
The submarine has a steering lock on it. He says, "Oh, the damn submarine group or something like that have like put like a steering lock, so they can only turn right. So they have to do like circles to basically get to the Titanic wreck."
Makes sense.
It's, yeah, and then like so because they can't get the pancakes to taste nice, Pinky asks if he can have a go because he has like a secret grandma's recipe or something. And the whole funny bit of that is that he managed to make pancakes that taste really nice. And it's only after the jamboree where everyone has eaten all the pancakes that he asks him, how did you make them taste nice? And Pinky's like, well, I just took out the serum. That was the bit that's taking them taste nasty. So,
which is a great zinger, isn't it? That's a great zinger, yeah.
But you can see it coming. You sat there, you're like, yeah, he's going to take out the serum,
and at the same time, you could also end this episode by it just not working. Like, that would also be like a perfectly viable Pinky in the Brain ending. Like, oh, it didn't work. Shit.
Yeah. But there's, in terms of like the adult jokes in this, then, because there's a couple. There's one that's the two that the CIA guys make. One of them is about like the golden ratio and the Nautilus shape. So, that kind of spiral thing, because they're following that pattern, I think. And you're like, really, we've got a joke about like Renaissance mathematical theory in this episode, in this kids' TV show episode. I mean, it would have just flown completely over my head. I wouldn't even register what that was. Never mind, even understood the words. Like, there's just jokes like that it's just totally bizarre. But
you get that in all cartoon animation, every animation though, even if it is exactly for kids, because it's still made by adults and like people can't help themselves.
Yeah, and as
like
Joe
all the
said
Harvard
before,
jokes in The Simpsons, Sam. Like, it's not for anyone but the writers.
Yes,
Yeah.
And as Joe said before, like you really connect to it, don't you? Then as an adult when you're watching it and brain dead because you've been watching Shipe for the last most of your life. The other one is there's a joke about Jacques Cousteau, who the French adventurer and seaman, like that. All of that again. You like
he loves the Earth.
He loves, because he was a bit of an environmentalist. Like the whole thing again, you just wow, you really are like pushing it in terms of even at points. And I did question. I didn't have time to do this, but I thought, I wonder if I let Callum watch this and would he find it funny? Like, would he connect to it on a child level? Obviously, this was very successful. It got 4 seasons for an animated show. It's pretty good. I imagine it was then syndicated to the
competing with things like Street Sharks and Biker Mice from Mars. I mean, like,
Oh my
and
God,
apparently
Dave,
Dexter's Laboratory and Johnny Bravo, apparently.
No, Street Sharks. That's what I want. That's what we're talking about now. Right, Street Sharks podcast. Here we go. And then we'll do Biker
Street
Mice
Sharks, the fucking methiest TV show from the 90s.
I think we need to do a 90s like dump episode where we just talk about every single thing.
Well, I think we've just done it, to be fair. Like,
talking
about
about
minutes talking about Pinky in the Brain here.
Adult themes as well. They all Brain also quotes Byron at one point.
He does.
Byron. Just a little bit of casual Byron in your 90s.
And then to kind of like just cool it down, Pinky quotes Baywatch. So
excellent. But it's all these layers of jokes, isn't it, that I think that really work, and so that we're able to you're able to kind of connect with it at different levels. But again, I do wonder how, like, if this is going to translate to maybe now and maybe after this, I'll put it on for Callum and see what he thinks, because he's got pretty generally good taste sometimes, and then he also has absolutely terrible taste, and he'll just watch any old crap. So it's just to see where it sits in that spectrum for him. I wonder, in terms of like the kids the actual kids content, because it's a little bit light, I think, in some ways. There's quite a lot to follow, and it's maybe for slightly older kids rather than your kind of 6 or 7.
There's stuff to enjoy. It moves fast enough that I think if you're like 6 or 7 years old, when we watched it when we were kids, like it's just fun and it's bright and it's like there's always stuff going on and there's no lulls in this, which is kind of like a hallmark of good kids TV. Is it just needs to be constant, because like kids' attention spans can be really, really like, oh, there's a conversation that's taken 14 seconds. Well, I'm switching over, or I'm going outside, or I'm doing whatever.
I mean, that's pretty much just like us, isn't it? To be honest.
Well, no, adults, Sam, we're far too lazy to like pick up a remote, so we'll watch 4 seasons of Heroes, despite the fact it's the worst thing ever made. Just because, like, what else are you going to do? Have a thought about watching something else? Sorry, Joe, that was really personal, and I apologise.
I think Hoops has proven that it isn't the worst thing that was ever
Stop talking
made.
about Hoops, Joe.
No, I won't.
God damn it.
I absolutely won't. No, I won't.
So where this show came from, and then we can maybe get onto some final thoughts. There's a funny quote that one of the people involved described it as a $250,000 inside joke, which I think is a great description of this. Largely because the kind of like the conception of it was two of the producers that show creator, Tom Ruger, had kind of worked with, Eddie Fitzgerald and Tom Minton, and these guys were basically Pinky and the Brain, even down to their appearance, but also the way they would talk. He injecting the word "narf" and "egad" into the general
point
conversations. Yeah, series producer Peter Hastings, who said the thing about the inside joke. He described Eddie, who Pinky was based on, as that he would always greet you like you were wearing a funny hat, and he liked it, which I think is a pretty complimentary thing to say about someone who's just that over the top enthusiasm.
Off-putting, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah. But so there's that real nice organic development, I think, of these characters, and then in the Animaniacs, which I don't think I ever really watched. I don't know about you guys.
Me neither. In fact, I really don't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than having heard of it from South Park, basically.
From South Park, yeah.
I saw the odd episode, but it was one of those that kind of...
Well, of course, Sam. Joe and his servants had Cartoon Network on all the time.
We joke. The only reason we could afford it was because we lived in a residential home.
Cartoon Network.
Accommodation provided free. So
going out to the badminton courts, maybe oppressing some working class people just for fun.
I mean, we paid no rent on the property.
So stop trying to defend yourself. Stop trying to defend yourself.
I don't have anything to defend myself from.
Right, guys, easy. So it's a fun beginning to this show, and I think as it goes through, I think we get to see some of the other. I was looking through on YouTube like the top funniest moments of this show. Most of it is references to long dead people, or like there's lots of like classical musical references and stuff, which I think is fun. But
nerdy
so again,
shit.
I wonder how this will translate into kids these days. But it's a great kind of like there's a heck of a lot going on, which I think I always appreciate from TV when you've got this great orchestral music that runs throughout, and you've got this funny situations that we get to, this kind of zany situation we get to see as well.
Yeah. I'm going to ask that question we tend to ask here. I mean, obviously, this is a pilot episode of something we've all seen before. Like, from my point of view, I don't think I'm really that interested in watching any more of this. I don't know where you guys sit. Not because I didn't enjoy it, but just because, like...
Because you'd have to pay, like, £2 per episode to get the rest of it.
Yes. Also, I think it's just a bit like it was a lot, and it's very inconsequential. Like I'd prefer just a tiny bit more. Like
well, it's kids' TV, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as a kid, if I was a kid, again, I could watch this and I'd enjoy it. Now, no, it's not something I'd watch more of.
Heroes, round again.
Just season 4. Start from season 4.
No, I would watch Pinky and the Brain over that, to be fair.
But you didn't when you were watching Heroes.
Completionist, man. I've watched it
So,
once.
I think I'd rather watch Twilight than watch Hero season 4 again.
Oh, well,
I've never
that can
seen
be
Twilight,
arranged,
so I
then.
couldn't comment. So
That can be
I've
arranged.
I've seen the second one for some reason.
question mark.
There we go.
We're going down there like
right
a
then,
hole
so-
here, aren't we?
I think we're done with Pinky and the Brain. It's always fun to delve back into the 90s. Oh, we love the 90s, don't we? Especially 90s cartoons. This is like perfect.
Oh, a safe place.
Well, we've got to do all the 90s cartoons here because obviously we have self-imposed a ban on the movies for the next. I think we've got 10 more weeks of no 90s movies.
Why
so
did we do
it's
that? Why?
it's going to
Why
be
did-
hard. We did it, Sam, so that we could watch all of Ross's favourite 70s and 80s action movies starring Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
One or the other. That's the only thing he'll watch. I'm surprised we got him to watch Nomadland. I'm really, I think there isn't an explosion to be seen.
No,
And
but
it's-
we are diverging once again, so let's get the fuck out of here.
All right. Well,
We'll see you next week where we will be watching a TV show. I think Joe is the czar of scheduling right now, so he'll probably have the answers there.
It's not going out, I believe.
Is that the Lee Mack one?
Yes.
Oh, I'm perfectly ready to be under and overwhelmed simultaneously by that TV show.
That's why I chose it, because I was pretty confident it wasn't it was a TV show that none of us had seen.
there we go.
Like, I'm sure it will be amusing,
Terrible?
but
Yes.
not actually funny.
Yes.
Like Lee Mack, amusing,
Yes, exactly.
but not actually funny. On a panel show, great.
I'd
Any other
suggest
situation?
I'd suggest it would be largely forgettable. Perhaps just like this. Perhaps just like this episode. So we'll see you next time, shall we?
See you later.
And the brain.
Naff.
That's where you say